communication is the lifeblood of relationships. This is especially true when it comes to relationship repair. It can feel like the relationship is impossible to repair unless these things are being shared. So in today's video, I want to break down why your partner doesn't feel comfortable sharing their feelings, and I want to break down exactly what to do about it. If your partner has gone silent or isn't telling you maybe the full truth about their feeling and their situation, it's rarely because they've run out of things to say. It's usually because the cost of speaking has become higher than the benefit of staying quiet. So I want to break down in this video why the wall is up and why you, and only you, can start tearing it down. So I can get why it can feel so frustrating and confusing when a partner is maybe not telling the full truth about things, holding things back, not telling you things that you think that would be really important for the relationship. It can feel like this buildup of lies of omission, or half-truths, white lies, whatever you want to call them, is the roadblock to repairing and regrowing the relationship. After all, if you can't have the full truth on the table, then how is the relationship ever going to move forward? Well, before you can fix this silence, you have to unlearn some of the things that most people do in this situation. A lot of people feel like there's some sort of common sense assumptions when it comes to communication in a relationship. As an example, some people think that their partner is naturally private. They naturally keep themselves to themselves and they never talk about things. The difficult truth is this myth of believing that some people are just closed books and you just have to accept that they never speak, they won't speak about important issues, is not true. The reality is that everyone talks to the person that they feel safest with. If they aren't talking to you, the environment, not their personality, not their character, is the barrier. And we'll break down exactly what this means a little later on in the video. But if a relationship is headed in a difficult direction, usually this cheating kind of paranoia can kick in. And there can be the assumption that lying, staying silent about things, not sharing their feelings, is some secret life or some secret affair that they're having, and they're trying to hide it from you. The truth is that not talking about subjects is not a sign of something untoward happening. Silence is a sign of kind of an emotional burnout or a shut down defense system based on the situation. If your partner doesn't feel comfortable sharing things with you, if you're assuming that it is some sort of betrayal or affair or cheating, then you're going to respond in a way that is actually going to push them further and further away. And this leads on to the next mistake that people make, is getting into interrogation mode, especially if you feel like your partner is cheating on you or having an affair or something like that. The error that people make is drilling them with questions, asking all of these details about their life, and it can start to feel like an inquisition. You know, what's wrong? Why don't you talk to me? Why didn't you tell me this 20 times a day? The consequence of this is that to you, it may feel like you're trying to rebuild that connection, but the impact of it is that this can actually feel like an attack to your partner, not an invitation to talk. So it usually forces them further into their shell to protect themselves from this pressure of being asked all of these interrogative questions. I'm not sure if that's a word, but interrogation questions as to what they're doing, their whereabouts, and all of these logical facts, when it usually comes from more of an emotional place. So with those mistakes out of the way, I want to break down why the vault is locked right now. So openness, being able to have a safe environment to speak, is usually a byproduct of a very strong emotional environment. If your partner's vault is locked, if they're withholding information, if they're giving half-truths, or if they're simply just not wanting to talk to you about certain subjects, it's because this security system in the brain, based on their fear of sharing something with you and potentially getting a negative response. Why do they feel like this emotional environment is not safe for them to share? One of the first reasons is that there is evidence to them of weaponized vulnerability. So if there's past precedent, if they shared something sensitive in the past, and maybe you've used it against them in an argument or something like that, then their sort of emotional vault can become locked. So let's say, for example, they shared something with you. Maybe they said, I'm worried about this relationship, I'm not happy, or something like that. If you hold this at the back of your mind and bring it back up at a later date, in a later argument, this can be seen as weaponizing their vulnerability. They opened up to you, they shared their feelings, and then it's come back to bite them on the butt, basically. If this has happened in the relationship, this can cause them to start to lock up that vault again and start to withhold things in because they're scared of this happening again. But it also can come down to an emotional tax. So if every time they're honest about a feeling, every time they've shared their feelings or been honest or told you something, and you've been hurt, you've been offended, or you've gotten extremely emotional, then they can stop sharing to protect you or protect themselves, to avoid the cleanup of emotions. We talk a lot on this channel about emotional regulation, how important it is to master your emotions. If your partner is sharing these things and there's a huge emotional outburst from you, it can feel like every time they mention something, there's going to be an emotional tax to it, and it can cause them to start closing up the vault. But not only that, if there has been a pattern between you both, a predictable outcome, oftentimes a partner can already have a script in their head of how they think a conversation is going to go. So for example, they can think, if I tell them that I'm unhappy with XYZ in the relationship, then they're going to get defensive, then we're going to fight for 3 hours and nothing's going to change. So if your partner isn't sharing their feelings, it can be a strategic choice, not in a manipulative way, but a way of protecting their own energy, because they've already seen an example of how this can play out over and over again. It can be fatiguing if their previous attempts at being open have been met with things like invalidation. If you say, well, here's why you shouldn't feel that way, or that's not true, or that's not what happened. Your partner can learn that their reality isn't really welcome in the relationship, and it can cause them to stop sharing that. The reality still exists for them. They still have their emotions, but now they're just being kept bottled up inside because this pattern has played out in the relationship multiple times. But most of all is if they are trying to be themselves, everyone in their relationship is always trying to be the most themselves that they can. If your partner feels like you're going to be unable to handle the real them, the person that they are by themselves, whether it's because they think that you are too fragile to handle it or you're too reactive to handle it, then they will give you a curated version of themselves. So they will shave off a lot of the rough edges that they feel like you're not going to respond well to. And eventually this curation becomes exhausting, because to change who you are, to force yourself into a box, can become emotionally exhausting. So what this means is that you can see them sometimes acting out of character with other people. But the reality is that they're oftentimes acting more freely and speaking more openly with other people because they don't feel like they can fully be themselves with you. And that's why they can hold back on saying things, or maybe say different things to you because they're worried about your response and your reaction. So these are the reasons why a partner can hide parts of themselves and feelings and facts about situations, because it's always because the root is that they don't feel like there's the emotional environment to be able to share them truly and be fully themselves with you. So that leaves the question, what can we do? What can we do to rebuild back the emotional environment in order for your partner to feel like they can share, they can be themselves, and they can be open with you? You can't demand openness. You can only invite it by becoming the person that is worth talking to. The first step is always auditing your own reactions. This is giving yourself a zero volatility rule. So when your partner does speak to you, whether it's about something that is tough to hear or it's simply about their day, making sure that you are listening. This is the lowest bar possible. Making sure that you are listening to your partner, not jumping in with your own opinions, your views, your ideas, listening to your partner and taking on board what they're actually saying. Practicing asking them more about what they're saying. I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me more about it. But then you actually have to follow through and shut up. Not jumping in or interjecting, making sure you're actually following through with actions, not just words. You can't just say, tell me more about that, I want to know more, and then jumping in with your own opinion. The next step is making sure that you're owning your half of the silence. So rather than looking at their silence as some sort of flaw, start looking at it as a response to the current environment of the relationship. Being able to self-reflect, being able to look back at your own responses, and like we said, auditing them and seeing where you could have jumped in, where you could have overstepped, where you could have been judgmental, where you could have raised your voice, where you could have invalidated, all of these things. Making sure that you're explicitly addressing that for any past times you've dismissed their feelings or gotten defensive. Making sure that you're doing this, not just for things in the past, but things that have been recent. This helps to clear out the kind of emotional debris that blocks the door to connection. But not only being able to do that, being able to lead with radical vulnerability. So the wall doesn't come down from their side first. Their wall is already up, so you have to go first. So making sure that you are still being vulnerable and open with them, sharing a fear, a failure, a deep thought of your own, whatever it is, without expecting any sort of response. Showing that the water is safe by jumping in yourself. This helps to build the emotional environment by you being vulnerable first. And this helps to reduce your partner's wall and show that you're willing to be vulnerable even if they may not feel that way right now. Most of all, make sure that you're reinforcing the wins. So if your partner does tell you something, whether it's something tiny, whether it's something big, what they had for lunch, frustration at work, or a frustration with you, make sure that you're treating it with respect. All of this data in a relationship is absolutely crucial to be able to not just rebuild the relationship and the relationship environment, but being able to grow it in a very powerful way moving forward. Making sure that you're giving your partner your full attention when they're talking. Put your phone down. Make sure you're signaling with your body language that their words have value, whether it's small, whether it's large. If they're raising it, then it's important to them. But then as you're talking about these topics, stopping the kind of why questions. So a lot of people fall into this trap of saying why. When people ask why questions, it can sound like an inquisition. Switching away from why questions and more into observations, being able to observe your partner's actions, it helps your partner to feel heard and understood. So instead of saying, why are you so quiet? Being able to say, hey, I could be wrong here, but I've noticed that maybe you feel like sharing things with me is not going to be received very well. I think that maybe I haven't made things very easy for you to share. If I were you, I feel like it's difficult to speak with me, but what do you think? In this way, you're being able to observe your partner's behavior, but you're not asking why. You're actually actively thinking of a potential reason as to why they may be quiet, but you're also opening it up for them to be able to tell you whether you're right or wrong. But the most important step is to proactively build the emotional environment. If your partner doesn't talk about something, like we said, it's because they fear your reaction. So if you're able to raise a topic that you feel like they may not be comfortable speaking about, but you can provide evidence that you can handle talking about that topic, then this is going to build the environment. This is what I work on a lot with members, is if their partner is feeling shut down or their partner isn't fully comfortable telling the truth, rather than simply waiting, being able to proactively build that environment and lead by example is really, really important. The more you take the steps to lead and cultivate that environment yourself, the more your partner feels safe to be able to step into that environment and start to share their feelings more openly. And if you want to become a member and you want to start this journey yourself, then feel free to join my relationship bootcamp. This is where all my members start learning the fundamentals of relationships and how to start regrowing and repairing the relationship. I'll drop a link in the description down below if you do want to join us. So making sure that you're being proactive in building this environment, and this means being able to handle any truths that come your way without judgment or pushback or defensiveness. So this doesn't mean being pushy with subjects, especially when you're trying to repair a relationship, but being able to lead the conversation in the right way and being able to show through actions, not words, that you can handle these tough topics. And this allows your partner to start feel more open talking about them. But there's a big difference between raising topics and opening it up as an invitation to talk rather than trying to push a subject. In fact, pushing a subject when your partner doesn't feel emotionally ready to be able to do that is actually going to make things worse, especially when you're trying to repair a relationship or get an ex back, which, a lot of people are in that position. Pushing on topics when your partner isn't ready is going to create that worse environment. I've done a deeper dive video on this, but making sure that you are having those conversations, you're raising those topics, but you're doing it in a way that is not drilling them to come up with some sort of decision or to push to some sort of fix. This is the difference between pressure and security. So like I said, I won't dig into it here. I'll leave you with that deeper dive video and I will see you over there.